The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. 7 ancient races sat on the council, and they believed they were the wisest beings in the universe. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had watched young species crawl out of their home worlds and reach for the stars. Most of those young species failed. The ones that survived learned to bow before the council and accept their place. Humanity was different. The council had watched humans for 200 years. They watched them spread across 23 worlds. They watched them build ships and stations and cities that floated in the void. They watched them trade and talk and make friends with smaller races. And the council grew worried. Admiral Unipark stood in the great chamber of Station Omega. The chamber was built from crystal that sang when light passed through it. The ceiling rose so high that clouds formed near the top. Representatives from 100 species filled the viewing galleries, all waiting to hear the council's decision. Una was 53 years old. Her hair was gray at the temples, and her eyes were calm and steady. She had commanded fleets and negotiated treaties. She had seen war and peace. Nothing surprised her anymore. But today, standing before the 7 thrones of the elder races, she felt something cold settling in her stomach. Behind her stood Captain Taiho Kim and Dr. Yoonji Han. Taiho was her military advisor, a tall man with broad shoulders and a face that rarely smiled. Yoonji was the chief diplomat, a woman who could find common ground with anyone. They had worked together for 15 years. They trusted each other completely. The Valori High Speaker sat on the central throne. The Valori were beings of pure energy, their forms shifting and flowing like fire made of starlight. When the High Speaker spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once. The human species has requested full membership in the Galactic Council. The Council has considered this request for 7 cycles. We have studied your history, your biology, your culture, and your potential. We have reached our decision. Una kept her hands folded in front of her. She had prepared 3 different speeches. One for acceptance, one for conditional acceptance, one for rejection. She hoped she would not need the third one. The human species is denied membership. A murmur ran through the galleries. Una did not move. She had expected this. What she did not expect was what came next. Furthermore, the High Speaker continued. The Council has voted to impose the following restrictions on human activity. First, humanity will withdraw from 17 of its 23 colony worlds within 1 standard cycle. Second, human vessels will not exceed Class 2 armament. Third, human representatives will no longer be permitted to address this body or any council committee. Fourth, human trade will be limited to goods approved by the Council Trade Authority. Now the murmur became a roar. Species in the gallery shouted in surprise. Some shouted in anger. A few laughed. Taiho's hands curled into fists at his sides. Yoonji's face went pale. But Una stood perfectly still, her expression unchanged. "May I ask the reasoning for this decision?" she said. Her voice was calm and clear. The High Speaker's form flickered with something that might have been amusement. "You may ask. We are not required to answer. But we will, because we wish you to understand." The High Speaker rose from its throne and floated down toward Una. It stopped just a few meters away, its light casting strange shadows across her face. "You are a young species. You have existed for less than 300,000 years. You have been among the stars for only 2 centuries. In that time, you have spread faster than any species in recorded history. You have built weapons that rival our own. You have formed alliances with dozens of minor races. You have shown ambition that exceeds your wisdom. We have started no wars," Una said. "We have honored every treaty we have signed. Yes, and that is precisely what concerns us. The high speakers circled around her slowly. You are patient. You are clever. You plan for the long term. These are dangerous qualities in a predator species. We are not predators. Your biology says otherwise. Your eyes face forward, like all hunters. Your bodies are designed for pursuit. Your history is written in blood. War after war after war, from the moment you learn to hold weapons until the moment you reach the stars. We have changed. Have you? The high speaker stopped in front of her again. Or have you simply learned to hide your nature? The council will not wait to find out. We will not allow another predator species to rise to power. We have seen what happens when we do. The Keth nearly destroyed 3 sectors before we stopped them. We will not make that mistake again. Yunji stepped forward. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. We request a formal appeal. Under council law, any species has the right to challenge a membership decision. Denied. This decision was made under Article 7 of the Founding Charter, which grants the Council emergency powers in matters of galactic security. There is no appeal. This is not justice, Taiho said. His voice was low and hard. This is fear. The high speaker turned to look at him. Yes, it is. And fear has kept this galaxy stable for 12,000 years. You have one standard cycle to begin your withdrawal. Failure to comply will result in enforcement. This session is concluded. The crystal walls sang as the council members rose from their thrones and departed. The galleries began to empty. Guards in silver armor approached the human delegation and gestured toward the exit. Yuna turned and walked out without another word. Taiho and Yunji followed her. They walked through corridors of crystal and light, past beings who watched them with pity or contempt or satisfaction. They walked until they reached the docking bay, where their shuttle waited. Only when the shuttle doors closed behind them did Yuna allow herself to speak. Get me a secure channel to Earth, she said. Priority 1. Taiho moved to the communications console. What are you going to tell them? The truth. The council has decided we are too dangerous to exist as equals. They want us weak and dependent. They want us to beg for scraps from their table. Yunji sat down heavily in one of the seats. What do? We cannot fight them. Their combined fleet is 100 times the size of ours. Yuna looked out the viewport at Station Omega, the great symbol of council power. She watched the lights of 1,000 ships moving around it like stars in orbit. We do not fight them, she said quietly. Not yet. Not the way they expect. Then what? Yuna turned away from the viewport. Her eyes were calm, but something burned behind them. Something patient and cold and very, very dangerous. They called us predators. They said our nature would show itself eventually. They are afraid of what we might become. She smiled, and there was no warmth in it. Let us show them what we already are. Let us show them what happens when you corner a species that has survived ice ages and plagues and wars and still reached the stars. Let us show them the difference between a predator and a survivor. How? Taiho asked. By being exactly what they accused us of. Patient, clever, planning for the long term. She sat down in the command chair and folded her hands in her lap. Send the message to Earth. Tell them to prepare for withdrawal. Tell them to comply with every demand. Tell them to smile and bow and say thank you. Yunji frowned. You want us to surrender? I want us to disappear, Yuna said. And when we are gone, when they have forgotten us, when they think they have won, then they will learn what it truly means to be afraid. The shuttle lifted off from Station Omega and turned toward the distant light of Sol. Behind them, the Galactic Council celebrated their victory over the dangerous young predators from Earth. They had no idea what they had just begun. The news reached Earth in 3 days. It spread across every colony world in 5. By the end of the first week, every human being in the galaxy knew what the Council had done. The reaction was exactly what the Council expected. Anger, outrage. Millions of people marched in the streets of 100 cities. Politicians gave furious speeches. Military officers demanded war. News channels played the recording of the High Speaker's words over and over again. And each time people watched it, their fury grew. President Ye Song stood in her office in Seoul and watched the protests through her window. She was 61 years old, a small woman with sharp eyes and a mind like a steel trap. She had led humanity through 3 crises already. This would be the 4th and the greatest. Admiral Yuna arrived at midnight. She came alone, walking through the quiet hallways of the presidential residence like a ghost. When she entered the office, Ye was waiting for her with 2 cups of tea. "Sit down," Ye said. "Tell me everything." Yuna sat and told her. She described the chamber, the thrones, the High Speaker's words. She described the looks on the faces of the other species. She described the silence of her own delegation as they walked away in defeat. When she finished, Ye was quiet for a long time. She stared at her tea, watching the steam rise and curl in the air. "They want us to fight," she said finally. "Yes, if we fight, we lose. Their combined military power is overwhelming. Even if we won somehow, the destruction would set us back centuries. Yes, and if we simply obey, we become nothing. A small, weak species living on 6 worlds, dependent on Council charity for survival. Within a few generations, we would lose everything that makes us who we are." "Yes," Ye looked up at Yuna. "So what do you suggest?" Yuna reached into her coat and pulled out a small data chip. She placed it on the table between them. "I suggest we do both. We obey every demand. We withdraw from the 17 worlds. We reduce our military. We stop sending representatives to council functions. We become quiet and small and harmless. And at the same time, we prepare. We build. We plan. We wait." Ye picked up the data chip and turned it over in her fingers. "What is this?" "Everything we know about the Council and the elder races. Their economies. Their militaries. Their dependencies. Their weaknesses." Yuna leaned forward. "The Council has ruled for 12,000 years because no one has ever challenged them. They have grown soft. They have forgotten what struggle means. They have outsourced everything. Their food comes from agricultural worlds run by minor species. Their technology is maintained by engineers they barely understand. Their ships are built in factories they have never visited. You are saying they are vulnerable. I am saying they are blind. They look at us and see primitives. They do not see the truth. And what is the truth?" Yuna smiled. "The truth is that humanity has been quietly making itself essential to half the galaxy. Human engineers designed the communication satellites that connect Council space. Human agricultural scientists developed the crop strains that feed 3 elder race homeworlds. Human doctors created the treatments that cured the Thrall plague. Human manufacturers produce 60% of the quantum processors used in Council ships." Ye eyes widened slowly. "We are woven into everything. Yes, and if we simply pull those threads, the whole tapestry falls apart." Yuna nodded. "Not immediately. Not obviously. But slowly, quietly, piece by piece. They will not even understand what is happening until it is too late." The next morning, President Song addressed the Terran Assembly. Her speech was calm and measured. She did not rage against the Council. She did not call for war. Instead, she spoke of acceptance and dignity. "The Council has made their decision," she said. "We do not agree with it. We believe it is unjust. But we are a peaceful species, and we will not respond to injustice with violence. We will comply with every demand. We will withdraw from the 17 worlds. We will reduce our military. We will show the galaxy that humans can be trusted. The assembly was stunned. The public was confused. The protests slowly died down, replaced by a strange, uncertain quiet. Behind the scenes, something very different was happening. Lieutenant Jisoo Beek worked in the basement of a building that officially did not exist. She was 34 years old, with quick hands and quicker eyes. Her job was to know things that other people did not want known. When Admiral Yuna came to visit her, Jisoo already had everything prepared. "Human personnel working in council space," she said, pulling up a holographic display. 47,000 engineers, scientists, doctors, and technicians, spread across 216 stations, ships, and installations. How many are in critical positions? 12,000. They maintain systems that the elder races cannot maintain themselves. Communication networks, power grids, water, recycling, medical equipment. Yuna studied the display. Begin the recall quietly, a few at a time. Family emergencies, health problems, contract expirations. Nothing that looks like a pattern. Understood. What about the knowledge? What do you mean? Jisoo smiled. Many of these systems were designed by humans. The manuals are in human languages. The maintenance protocols exist only in human databases. If our people leave without sharing that information, then the systems become black boxes. The elder races can use them, but they cannot fix them. Exactly. Yuna put her hand on Jisoo's shoulder. You understand what we are doing? This is not a military operation. There will be no glory, no battles, no victories that anyone will ever celebrate. I understand. We are going to hurt them in ways they will not even recognize. They will suffer, and they will not know why. Some of them will die. Jisoo's face was calm. They called us predators. They said our nature was violence. They were wrong. Our nature is survival. And sometimes survival means being patient. Sometimes it means being invisible. Sometimes it means letting your enemy destroy themselves. The withdrawal began within the month. Human colonists packed their belongings and boarded ships bound for the 6 remaining worlds. Human warships were decommissioned, their weapons removed, and their hulls converted to cargo carriers. Human representatives sent polite letters of resignation to council committees. The galaxy watched and concluded that humanity had been broken. Dr. Minho Choi was one of the last to leave. Station Omega. He had worked there for 15 years, maintaining the environmental systems that kept 3 million beings alive. The Valari who ran the station barely acknowledged his existence. He was just another human worker, easily replaced. On his last day, a young Valori administrator stopped him in the corridor. "You are leaving?" The administrator asked. "Yes, my contract is finished. But there is no one to replace you. The environmental systems are complex." Minho smiled politely. "I am sure you will find someone. The manuals explain everything. The manuals are in your language. We cannot read them. Then perhaps you should learn." He walked away, leaving the administrator standing in the corridor with confusion on its glowing face. 6 months later, the environmental systems on Station Omega began to malfunction. The Valari could not fix them. They could not find anyone who understood how they worked. They sent messages to Earth requesting technical assistance. Earth did not respond. This was how humanity's quiet war began. Not with weapons or fleets or declarations of battle, but with absence, with silence, with the simple, devastating power of walking away. And across the galaxy, in 1,000 different places, The first cracks began to appear in the foundation of the Council's power. The elder races did not notice. They were too busy celebrating their victory over the dangerous predators from Earth. They would notice soon enough. 1 year after the Council's decision, the first crisis hit. The Thrall Consortium was one of the oldest members of the Council. They were a machine-loving species, their entire civilization built on automation and technology. Their cities were run by computers. Their farms were tended by robots. Their ships flew themselves. The Thrall had not performed manual labor in 6,000 years. The problem was simple. The quantum processors that controlled everything in Thrall space had been manufactured by humans. When those processors began to fail, the Thrall discovered something terrible. They did not know how to make new ones. Council of Reth stood before the emergency session of the Council, his mechanical body trembling with something that might have been fear. 17% of our processors have failed, he said. Our factories are producing at half capacity. 3 orbital stations have lost life support. 200,000 citizens are dead. The High Speaker's form flickered with concern. Why have you not replaced the processors? We cannot. The manufacturing process was developed by human engineers. They took the knowledge with them when they left, then purchased new processors from human traders. We have tried. The humans say they no longer produce quantum processors for export. They say their remaining manufacturing capacity is needed for their own people. Silence fell over the council chamber. The representatives of the elder races looked at each other with growing unease. This is sabotage, Reth said. His voice rose to a mechanical scream. They are attacking us. The High Speaker raised one glowing limb. They have done nothing illegal. They have simply stopped selling us their goods. This is their right. Their right? Millions of my people will die. Then you should have learned to make your own processors. The Thrall Counselor went silent. There was nothing more to say. Ambassador Do Yun Ru was the last human official in council space. He was 70 years old, a career diplomat who had spent his entire life building bridges between species. Now he was watching those bridges burn. He delivered his final message to the council on a cold morning in the 2nd year of humanity's withdrawal. The Terran government wishes to express its sympathy for the difficulties faced by the Thrall Consortium, he said. We understand that our departure has created certain challenges. However, we must remind the Council that these challenges are a direct result of the restrictions placed upon us. We were told we were dangerous. We were told we were not wanted. We have accepted these judgments and removed ourselves from Council space. We cannot be blamed for the consequences. You planned this, Reth hissed. We planned nothing. We simply left. If the Council had become dependent on human labor and human knowledge without realizing it, that is not our fault. Da-Hyun bowed slightly. I will be departing tomorrow. Earth wishes you all prosperity and peace. He walked out of the chamber and never returned. The crises multiplied. The Valori communication network began to degrade. Without human engineers to maintain the satellites, messages took longer and longer to transmit. Trade ships got lost. Emergency signals went unheard. Worlds that depended on Valori coordination started to drift apart. The Keth Dominion faced food shortages. Human agricultural scientists had developed the enhanced crop strains that fed their homeworld. When no scientists left, they took their research with them. The new generation of crops produced half the yield. The Keth began to starve. The minor species that had always served the elder races started to ask questions. Why should they continue to obey masters who could not even feed themselves? Why should they accept orders from powers that were clearly failing? On a small moon in the outer territories, a species called the Varath declared independence from the Keth Dominion. They were farmers, workers, servants for 10,000 years. Now they raised their own flag and dared the Keth to stop them. The Keth sent a fleet. The fleet arrived to find that the Varath had been given weapons. Human weapons, delivered by human traders who asked nothing in return except friendship. The battle was short. The Keth fleet, its systems already weakening from lack of maintenance, was driven back. The Varath kept their freedom. Word spread across the galaxy. The elder races could be defied. The council could be resisted. The old order was cracking, and a new one was struggling to be born. Captain Taiho Kim watched the reports come in from his station on Earth's moon. He was 55 now, his hair fully gray, his face lined with years of worry and planning. But for the first time in a long time, he smiled. 3 more rebellions this month, he said to Admiral Yuna. The Keth have lost control of their outer territories. The Valori are too busy fixing their communication systems to respond. The Thrall are in complete chaos. Yuna stood by the window, looking out at the Earth rising above the lunar horizon. She was older too, but her eyes were still sharp, still burning with that cold fire. "It is not enough," she said. "Not enough? Their civilization is falling apart." Falling apart, yes, but not fallen. The council still exists. The elder races still have their fleets. When they finally realize what is happening, they will come for us. Let them come. We have been building. I know. But building takes time. We need more time. She turned away from the window. What do our intelligence sources say? Taiho pulled up a holographic display. The council is divided. Some want to negotiate with us. Some want to attack us. Some want to pretend nothing is wrong. They cannot agree on anything. Good. Keep them divided. Feed their disagreements. Make sure they blame each other for their problems, not us. Understood. Yuna walked to her desk and sat down. On the desk was a small model of a ship, a design she had been working on for years. It was sleek and fast, and unlike anything the council had ever seen. "In 2 more years, we will be ready," she said. "Our secret shipyards will have produced enough vessels to defend ourselves. Our colony ships will be prepared for the exodus. Our weapons will be tested and refined. And then we give them one last chance. We offer peace. We offer trade. We offer to help them rebuild what has been broken." Our voice grew cold. "And if they refuse, if they insist on coming after us, then we show them the truth about humanity. Not that we are predators. Not that we are dangerous. But that we are survivors. And survivors do whatever is necessary to survive." Taiho nodded slowly. "The council still thinks they won. They still think we are beaten. Let them think it. Their arrogance is our greatest weapon." Yuna picked up the model ship and turned it over in her hands. They looked at us and saw primitives. They looked at us and saw animals. They never bothered to see what we really are. And what are we? Yuna set the ship down and looked at Taiho with eyes that held no mercy and no fear. "We are the species that walked out of Africa with nothing but stones and sticks. We are the species that tamed fire and split the atom. We are the species that survived ice ages and plagues and wars and reached the stars anyway. We do not surrender. We do not die quietly. We endure." She stood up and walked to the window again. "The council wanted us afraid. They wanted us small. They wanted us broken." She smiled, and it was a terrible smile. The smile of a hunter who has finally cornered its prey. They are about to learn that they made the worst mistake any predator can make. What mistake is that? They wounded us. And then they let us live. Outside the window, Earth hung in the darkness of space, a blue jewel against the black void. And somewhere out there, hidden in the shadows between the stars, humanity's secret fleets were growing. The Council's time was running out. They just did not know it yet. Deep in the outer reaches of the Sol system, far from the light of the sun, something massive was being born. Commander Suji Kang stood on the observation deck of Construction Station 7, watching the ships take shape in the void. She was 42 years old, a woman who had spent her entire career in shadows. No one outside the highest levels of government knew her name. No one knew what she had built. The station orbited Neptune, hidden by the planet's storms and protected by the most advanced stealth technology humanity had ever created. Council sensors could not find it. Council ships could not reach it. For 3 years, Suji and her team had worked in absolute secrecy, building the fleet that would decide humanity's future. How many now? Asked Jujunho Lee, her second-in-command. He was younger than her, eager and brilliant, one of the best engineers humanity had produced. 247 combat vessels, 83 support ships, 12 mobile manufacturing platforms, 50 colony ships. Suji smiled. And that is just the station. We have 7 others. The Council has no idea. The Council is too busy falling apart to look. Their intelligence networks are broken. Their spy satellites are blind. They think we're sitting on 6 planets, licking our wounds. She turned to face him. How is the new drive system? Junho's eyes lit up. This was his creation, the thing he had devoted 5 years of his life to perfecting. Better than we hoped. The ships can cross Council space in days instead of weeks. By the time their sensors detect us, we will already be gone. And the weapons? The energy absorption shields are fully operational. Any attack against us will be captured and redirected. Their own weapons will destroy them. He paused. There is something else. The light-bending technology. We have finished the tests. Show me. Junho pulled out a small remote and pressed a button. Outside the observation window, one of the ships simply vanished. It did not cloak. It did not fade. One moment it was there, and the next it was gone. It bends light around the hull, Junho explained. The ship is still there, but no sensor can detect it. No eye can see it. For all practical purposes, it does not exist. Suji let out a long breath. The Council built their empire on military power. They believe they cannot be defeated because no one has ever had weapons to match theirs. They are wrong. Yes, they are very, very wrong. On Earth, President Ye Jin-song prepared for the moment she had been planning for 3 years. She was 64 now, tired and gray, but her mind was still sharp. She had led humanity through its darkest hour, and now she would lead it into the light. The Terran Assembly gathered in the Great Hall in Seoul. Representatives from every human world filled the seats. Cameras broadcast the session to every corner of human space. Billions of people watched and waited. 3 years ago, Eugene began, the Galactic Council told us we were too dangerous to exist as equals. They told us to shrink. They told us to bow. They told us to accept our place as a minor species, forever beneath the elder races. She paused, letting the words sink in. We did as they asked. We withdrew from our colonies. We reduced our military. We went silent. The Council believed they had defeated us. They believed we had accepted their judgment. Her voice grew stronger. They were wrong. A holographic display appeared behind her. It showed the secret shipyards. It showed the fleets. It showed the colony ships waiting in the darkness. For 3 years, we have been building. Not weapons of war, though we have those too. We have been building something greater. We have been building a future. The display changed to show a star map. Beyond the borders of Council space, in regions that had never been explored, 50 stars were highlighted. The Exodus Initiative. 50 colony ships. 200,000 volunteers for the first wave. We will settle new worlds, build new civilizations, create a human presence that the Council cannot touch and cannot threaten. Gasps filled the chamber. This was beyond anything the representatives had imagined. We are not running away, Yejing continued. We are not abandoning our home. Earth will always be humanity's heart. But we will no longer be contained by borders that others have drawn for us. We will no longer accept limits that others have imposed. She turned to face the cameras directly. To the Galactic Council, I say this. You called us predators. You said our nature would eventually show itself. You were half right. We are not predators. We are survivors. We do not need to conquer. We do not need to destroy. We only need to endure. And we will endure long after your empire has turned to dust. Admiral Yuna stood at the back of the chamber, watching the speech with quiet satisfaction. Beside her, Taiho and Yunji waited. The Council will receive this transmission within hours, Yunji said. How do you think they will react? They will panic, Yuna replied. They have spent 3 years believing we were broken. Now they will realize we were preparing. They will feel afraid, and afraid people make mistakes. You think they will attack? I know they will. It is the only response they understand. They cannot negotiate with us as equals because they have never seen us as equals. They cannot ignore us because we have become too powerful. They cannot let us go because that would mean admitting they were wrong. She smiled coldly. They will gather their fleets and come for Seoul. They will try to destroy us before we can escape. And when they come, we will be ready. The Council received the transmission the next day. The reaction was exactly what Yuna had predicted. The High Speaker called an emergency session. For the first time in centuries, all 7 elder races were united. Not in wisdom or cooperation, but in fear. They have built a secret fleet, Councillor Vreth said. They have weapons we have never seen. They are planning to spread beyond our reach. Then, we must stop them, the Keth representative growled. We must destroy them now, before they become too strong. We tried to contain them, the Valori High Speaker said. We tried to limit their growth. We failed. They are more dangerous than we imagined. They are humans, the Thrall Councillor spat. They are primitives. They cannot defeat the combined might of the Council. The combined might of the Council? The High Speaker's form flickered with bitter amusement. Look around you. The Thrall economy is in ruins. The Keth cannot control their own territories. The Valori network is failing. We are not the power we once were. Then we must act now while we still can. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Galactic Council declared war. 47 warships gathered at the border of Council space. It was the largest fleet the Council had assembled in living memory. Battleships and carriers and destroyers, crewed by the best soldiers of 7 species, armed with weapons that had never known defeat. They set course for Seoul. Admiral Hejin No received word of their approach while standing on the bridge of the Silent Dawn, humanity's new flagship. She was 50 years old, a woman who had never lost a battle. She intended to keep that record. How long until they reach us? She asked. 12 days at their current speed, her tactical officer reported. Good. That gives us time to prepare. She turned to her communications officer. Send word to Admiral Yuna. Tell her the Council has taken the bait. Then begin final preparations for Operation Reckoning. Yes, Admiral. Hajin walked to the observation window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a fleet was coming to destroy everything humanity had built. They believed they would find a wounded animal, desperate and afraid. They would find something very different. They still think this is about power, she said quietly. They still think this is about territory and resources and control. They do not understand. Understand what, Admiral? Hadjin smiled. It was not a kind smile. They do not understand that this was never about winning. This was about survival. And when a species fights for survival, there is nothing it will not do. No limit it will not break. No line it will not cross. She turned away from the window. Prepare the fleet. When the Council arrives, they will learn the price of threatening humanity's existence. Outside, in the darkness of space, 247 ships waited in perfect formation. The final battle was about to begin. The Council fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 47 warships, their hulls gleaming with ancient power, their weapons charged and ready. At their head flew the Voice of Order, flagship of the combined Council forces. Carrying representatives from all 7 elder races, High Commander Zeth stood on the bridge, his massive form casting shadows across the walls. He was Keth, born for war, trained for conquest. He had destroyed rebellions and crushed empires. The humans would be no different. Scan the system, he ordered. Find their ships. His sensors operator worked the controls for a long moment. Then, he looked up, confusion on his face. Commander, I am detecting only minimal activity. 6 planets show human presence. A few orbital stations. Some civilian traffic. But no military vessels. Impossible. Our intelligence said they built a fleet. The intelligence was wrong, Commander. Or their fleet is not here. Zeth felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Something was wrong. The humans had broadcast their capabilities to the entire galaxy. They had shown their shipyards, their weapons, their plans. Why would they do that if they intended to run? It does not matter, he said finally. If their fleet is gone, then their worlds are defenseless. We will take them one by one. Begin approach to Earth. The fleet moved forward, spreading into attack formation. They passed the outer planets without resistance. They passed the asteroid belt without challenge. They drew closer and closer to the blue world that had given birth to humanity. And then the stars began to change. Admiral Hedgen No gave the order from her position behind Earth's moon. 247 ships deactivated their light-bending technology simultaneously. One moment the Council fleet was alone in empty space. The next moment they were surrounded. Human ships appeared everywhere. Above them. Below them. On all sides. Ships that were smaller and faster than anything the Council had ever seen. Their hulls dark and smooth. Their weapons already glowing with power. This is Admiral Hedgen No of the Terran Defense Force. Her voice echoed across every frequency. You have entered human space with hostile intent. You will power down your weapons and surrender, or you will be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to comply. On the Voice of Order, High Commander Zeth stared at his screens in disbelief. The human ships had appeared from nothing. His sensors had not detected them until they were already in firing position. His fleet was completely surrounded. How is this possible? He whispered, Commander, what are your orders? His first officer asked. Zeth's shock turned to rage. He was Keth. He did not surrender to primitives. All ships, open fire. Destroy them all. The Council fleet unleashed everything they had. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes and kinetic projectiles, weapons that had shattered worlds and ended civilizations. The barrage was overwhelming, unstoppable, and it did nothing. The human ships absorbed the energy. Their shields glowed bright, drinking in the power of the Council's weapons. Then that power was redirected outward in focused beams that cut through Council hulls like sunlight through fog. The first Council battleship exploded in a ball of fire. Then the second. Then the third. Fall back. Zeth screamed. Fall back. But there was nowhere to fall back to. The human ships moved like thought, flowing around the council formation, cutting off escape routes, picking off stragglers. They were everywhere and nowhere, appearing out of empty space to strike and then vanishing again. In 20 minutes. Half the council fleet was destroyed or disabled. In 40 minutes. It was over. The voice of order drifted powerless in space. Its weapons destroyed, its engines dead. High Commander Zeth stood on his darkened bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his crew. He had never known defeat. Now he knew nothing else. Admiral Hedgen's ship appeared outside his viewport, close enough that he could see the name painted on its hull. Silent Dawn. High Commander Zeth, her voice came through his speakers. Your fleet is destroyed. Your mission has failed. You may either surrender and be returned to Council space, or you may continue fighting and die. The choice is yours. Zeth closed his eyes. His entire life had been built on a certainty that the elder races were supreme, that the Council was invincible, that younger species existed only to serve or to be destroyed. That certainty was gone now, burned away in the fire of human weapons. I surrender, he said. The battle was over. But the war was just beginning. Admiral Una stood before the council chamber one last time. The great crystal amphitheater was dark now, its lights dimmed, its galleries empty. Only the 7 thrones remained occupied, and the beings on those thrones looked old and tired and afraid. You came to destroy us, Una said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. You sent your greatest fleet to burn our worlds and kill our people. You failed. The High Speaker's form flickered weakly. What do you want from us? Want? I want nothing. I am here to tell you what will happen now. She walked closer to the thrones, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Humanity is leaving Council space. Our colony ships are already departing for regions beyond your borders. We will build new civilizations, new alliances, new futures. You will not follow us. You will not threaten us. You will not contact us unless we contact you first. And if we refuse these terms? The Keth representative growled. You saw what happened to your fleet. That was not our full strength. That was not even close. Una's eyes were cold. You called us predators. You said our nature would show itself. You were right about one thing. When we are threatened, when our survival is at stake, there is nothing we will not do. Nothing we cannot become. You pushed us to the edge. Now, you will live with the consequences. She turned to leave, then stopped. One more thing. The species you dismissed, the young races you ignored, the civilizations you considered beneath your notice. We have been talking to them. We have been sharing with them. Technology, knowledge, hope. The galaxy is changing, and you cannot stop it. You are destroying the order that has kept peace for 12,000 years, the High Speaker said. No, you destroyed it when you decided that only some species deserve freedom. You destroyed it when you tried to crush anyone who threatened your power. We are simply building something new from the ruins. She walked out of the chamber and never looked back. 10 years passed. The Galactic Council still existed, but it was a shadow of what it had been. 2 elder races had collapsed in the Civil War, fighting over scraps of a dying empire. 3 others had fractured into smaller factions, each claiming to be the true inheritors of ancient glory. The remaining 2 held together through sheer stubbornness, ruling over territories that shrank every year. Beyond the old borders, a new civilization was rising. Humanity had settled 100 worlds. They had made alliances with dozens of species, young races that had been dismissed and ignored, that had found in humanity a partner rather than a master. Trade routes crossed sectors that had never been mapped. Cities rose on planets that had never known intelligent life. And still they grew. Still, they expanded. Still, they reached for stars that no one had ever touched. Captain Taiho Kim was an old man now. His hair was white, his face lined with decades of struggle and triumph. He stood on the observation deck of the great station that served as humanity's new capital, watching ships come and go from 100 different worlds. His granddaughter, Soyeon, stood beside him. She was 22 years old, newly commissioned as an ensign in the Terran Exploration Corps. She wore her uniform with pride, her eyes bright with the eagerness of youth. "Tell me the story again, grandfather," she said. "Tell me how it began." Taiho smiled. He had told this story 1,000 times, to his children and his grandchildren, and anyone else who would listen. It never grew old. 60 years ago, the Galactic Council looked at humanity and saw a threat. They tried to crush us. They tried to make us small and weak and afraid. They thought they were punishing us for being what we are. What were they really doing? Taiho put his arm around his granddaughter's shoulders and looked out at the stars. They were setting us free. They pushed us out of their garden, and we discovered that the universe was bigger than their garden. They closed their doors to us, and we found new doors that they had never imagined. They tried to break us, and instead they made us stronger than we had ever been. Soyeon was quiet for a moment. "Do you ever think about going back? About making them pay for what they did?" Taiho shook his head. "Revenge is for those who have nothing better to do. We have worlds to build, species to help, a future to create. The Council will fade into history, and we will still be here, still growing, still reaching for something greater." He pointed to a ship that was departing from the station, a sleek vessel with exploration markings on its hull. "That ship is going to a star system that no one has ever visited. They will be the first intelligent beings to see those worlds. They will name those mountains and those oceans and those moons. They will plant the first seeds of civilizations that will last for thousands of years." He looked at his granddaughter with pride. "And someday, you will command a ship like that. You will find new worlds and new wonders. You will carry humanity forward into the unknown." Soyeon's eyes shone with emotion. "Because that is what we do. Yes, that is what we do. We survive. We adapt. We grow. We endure." He squeezed her shoulder gently. "The Council thought they were teaching us our place. Instead, they taught us something far more important." "What?" Taiho smiled, and in his eyes was all the hope and all the determination of a species that had refused to die. That the universe belongs to those who are brave enough to claim it. And no one, no matter how old or how powerful, can stop a species that has decided to survive. Outside the window, the stars burned bright and eternal, and somewhere among them, humanity's ships sailed on toward tomorrow. The Council's insult had been forgotten. The reckoning was complete, and humanity's story was only beginning.